White House bureau chief for The Washington Post and an MSNBC political analyst, Ashley Parker. Her new reporting is entitled, Biden and Europeans to Announce Major Plan to Redirect Gas to Europe. Tell us about the plan, Ashley.
Sure. So this is something that President Biden is going to announce tomorrow morning. It's sort of the last thing he does in Brussels before he heads to Poland. And one of the real issues that Europe has been grappling with and the U.S. wants to help with is Europe's dependence on Russia for energy. About 70 to 80% of Europe's energy does come from Russia. That's a contrast to the United States. And so this is a major initiative between the U.S. and Europe to take shipments of liquefied natural gas and get them to Europe sort of as soon as possible in the short term to help Europe kind of have a little distance and less dependence on Russia when it comes to energy, which is, of course, something you want in the middle of a crisis like this.
All right, Ashley, and stand by in case we want to go back. Hattie, you might want to go to Ashley, but this distance and dependence is necessary. It's something the United States has sort of put off as well. And if there wasn't the dependence on Russian oil and other different ways that we're sort of drawn in, it might be simpler to deal with Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has really revealed a weakness in the European commodity model, that we cannot be this dependent on Russia. The problem is it takes time to fix. I mean, it was one thing for the US and the UK to impose sanctions on Russian energy. They don't use that much of it. It's only about 8% of their total energy imports. But Germany, Hungary, Italy, they all use a lot of Russian oil and gas. And if they don't have it, they're going to have to find it from somewhere else. And I'm hearing that it's going to take until about June before we have other streams online that we can actually use. Actually, one of the other things that I think there is an urgency about at this NATO summit, I mean, beyond the oil and gas, which is going to take time, is this issue of weapons. The Ukrainian ambassador to the UK has just said that they could run out of weapons in the form of anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles within a week. The only reason that the Ukrainians have done as well as they have up until now in this war is because they have been supplied by foreign weapons. Were they to run out of those foreign weapons, the Russians would seize an advantage, particularly if they were backed up by Belarusian forces. So it's critical to the Ukrainian war effort that they get those weapons as quickly as possible. Is that something that we might be able to expect, do you think, out of this NATO summit?
Potentially. I mean, this is one of these areas, actually, where there are some tensions between NATO allies who are frustrated about the United States sort of saying what it won't do, drawing these red lines, saying it won't enforce a no-fly zone. It doesn't want to get into World War III with Russia. There's an argument some are making for more strategic ambiguity. But one of the things the United States has been very much willing to do are to provide lethal assistance to Ukraine in a defensive capacity. And the United States make the very nuanced distinction between defensive weapons like javelins, like Stingers, and offensive weapons, like, for instance, the United States has said we will not help facilitate what one thing Zelensky has asked for, which is the transfer of Polish MiG fighter jets to Ukraine. But this is an area where something Zelensky wants, as you point out, it's something the Ukrainians need. And this is an area where the U.S. has shown a willingness. So it's very possible that this is one of these things NATO allies can agree on and would be happy to do to help.
Yeah. Ashley Parker, thank you so much for your reporting from the Washington Post this morning. And Joe, while all this talking is going on, it's just hard not to bear in mind the unbelievable resistance and the casualties, the Russian casualties that the Ukrainians are taking on moment by moment, and also on their own side.
Yeah. You know, Richard, it really is a tale of two wars, isn't it? You have the war crimes that the Russians are committing against the Ukrainian people. I mean, some of the images are just stunning. A tank rolls around the corner, sees an elderly couple in a car, and directs aim, blows them up, kills them. We heard intercepts yesterday of commanders sending the orders to destroy entire villages and kill the people there. That's one side of the war. And then you look at the ground war and you see that the Ukrainians are really pushing back hard on the Russians. I'm just curious. You look across the landscape of this war, where do things seem to be going? And let's just, whether we look at it from Putin's position logically or illogically, what good for him comes out of continuing this war where his troops keep getting killed? Their morale continues to collapse. They're turning on each other. At what point does he bring them back home and stop exposing to the world just how weak his military is?
Well, Joe, you're right. There are two wars. There's Russia's war against Ukrainian cities and their society against people, and there's the Ukrainian war, which is their military against the Russian military. My sense is that over time, Russia will begin to try to diminish their exposure to the Ukrainian military. And you may see a reduction in Russian soldiers because they're losing that war, and that's the biggest political vulnerability for Vladimir Putin back home. That, again, was what brought his predecessors in the Soviet Union down in Afghanistan. But there's no reason the Russians can't continue using standoff missiles from significant distances, the war against Ukraine's population. And if their overall goal is to depopulate eastern Ukraine, is to keep Ukraine from becoming a viable country, it's quite possible the ground war, Russia will pull back from it, the war between the armies. They'll continue the war against the population, and that then becomes a frozen conflict. Rather than, again, agree to a formal peace agreement where Mr. Putin would have to compromise and potentially look weak, it's quite possible he will continue the war against the Ukrainian people for some time, particularly, and this is where I slightly disagree with the previous conversation, if he can continue getting sufficient receipts from energy sales. And it's going to be very, very hard for Europe to turn off that spigot. It's a very gradual thing. We have liquefied natural gas. They don't have the terminals to absorb significant amounts of it. So I think we're not talking weeks or months. I think we're potentially talking years there. And that Vladimir Putin's playing for time here. And that's what I think this is about.
So we're going to.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.